No problem. We are just so. Hare Krishna. Good morning, everyone. So the first question, English is no problem, yeah? Okay, perfect. Then today is beautiful Sunday morning, and we are reading from a transcendental diary, Travels with His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Recorded from October 1976 to November 1976 by Hari Sauri Das. Shri Vrindavan Dham. Again, Dr. Knoiper seemed uncomfortable with that. Again, Dr. Knoiper seemed uncomfortable with what seemed to him Prabhupada's sweeping generalizations. There are farmers who produce, he said. And Prabhupada was happy to acknowledge this. He was not saying that 100% of the world's population is off the mark, but pretty close. Well, in your country, there is some adjustment because it is very big country and you are all intelligent people. But even though you have got resources, if you do not properly utilize it, then the bad time is coming. You should expect. Warning of future shortages due to sinful life. He quoted a short Bengali phrase and told its purport. One man wanted to take statistics. How many thieves are there in this village? So when he began to take statistics, he saw everyone is thief. Then he said that, what is the use of making statistics? This is village of thieves, that's all. So at the present moment, this is the position. If you make a statistics who is sinful and who is not sinful, you will find all sinful. And because they are sinful, they decry the existence of God. So we are reading from Srila Prabhupada's conversation, and Srila Prabhupada is mentioning an example of how one person tried to calculate amongst the general mass of population how many are thief and how many are not thief. Once upon a time, during Alexander's rule, the soldiers caught one thief. They brought him in front of Alexander, and so Alexander was dictating some punishment. But then this thief, he said, what's the difference in you and me? Yeah, O king, what's the difference is between you and me? You are a greater thief, I am a smaller thief, that's it. And the king was surprised. Yeah. And he explained that you are stealing from God, you are taking something and showing it as your property, which belongs to God actually. So what's the difference between you and me? You know, why some people don't want to accept God? Because if they accept God consciousness, that means they are accounted. So their activities are accounted actually. And because their activities are accounted, they cannot live a life out of free will. So they have to live a life according to certain rules and regulations. And this is a big problem actually, because no one wants to be controlled by higher authorities. So they deny the existence of God, and hence they live in the ignorance that there is no reincarnation. So there is no need to worry about the results of my action. And based on this, they do all kind of sinful activities, you know. So this is also one of the reasons why people don't take to God consciousness. See here, because they are sinful, they decry the existence of God. Yeah. Or because they want to be sinful, they decry the existence of God. That's also the case. Yeah. It's the same way that day we were discussing the pastime of Indra. So when the great sage arrived, he gave his Mahagarland to Indra. But Indra was intoxicated, and he gave that garland to his elephant, Airavat. Airavat is just an elephant. animal. So Airavat took that garland and he just threw away. And the sage got angry. You see, Indra here at this point, he didn't want it to be uncomfortable. So he was so-called so-called comfort zone. Yeah, at that time, being intoxicated, he didn't want it to give up that actually. And hence, he denied the existence of the great sage, you see. So it's the same way as we were discussing that day. The seed of Vaishnava Aparad lies in the tendency to do sense gratification. Very simple. Yeah. So that's what Srila Prabhupada is discussing with Dr. Knoiper. Why do I get a feel Dr. Knoiper is from Germany? Does someone knows? Is he from Germany? No? Okay. We didn't read about him, yeah? Like from where he came exactly. But there's a big discussion. You see, there are so many pages that Dr. Knoiper is discussing. I say, so who is Dr. Knoiper? We can just a bit check about. Late this afternoon, Srila Prabhupada had a visit from Dr. Theodore Knoiper, a professor since 1969 of Oriental Philosophy at Slippery Rock University in Belgium. So Dr. Knoiper is having a very deep philosophical discussion with Srila Prabhupada. We can see this. So many pages. He is still continuing the discussion. And furthermore also, we will be reading about him. So that's what the idea of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also was, to preach to the high class society or so-called highly educated people in materialistic world, because ordinary people like me, they follow them. So that's why. And it's also the reason, one of the reason why Prabhupada came to West. Because at that time, in India, Prabhupada tried to give Krishna consciousness, but no one appreciated, because they were all blinded by the fake dazzling of the Western world. So Prabhupada thought, okay, let me go to West and preach them. Once they accept it, I will bring them and show it as an example. And it was very successful, really successful. Srila Prabhupada came back with his white dancing elephants. If I am not wrong, the President of India then, he came personally to welcome Srila Prabhupada with a garland. But before leaving for USA, Srila Prabhupada tried to contact him also. But no one replied. They didn't take Srila Prabhupada seriously, But when Srila Prabhupada came back with his Western disciples, the world changed, And then, so they came and they preached Krishna consciousness in India. And that's how today India is having also a successful ISKCON preaching mission. All glories to all the Western disciples of Srila Prabhupada. Any comments? Mataji.
Yesterday I heard in a lecture one statement that according to Manu Samhita and also Vedas, that it is allowed to the king to take what he needs by force. And it won't be a sin for him. But of course it's considered that this king is worshipping God. So maybe about those story about Alexander, maybe that sinful person, maybe he wasn't very correct. We are not sure if Alexander was worshipping God or not. We don't know.
True, Mataji. But there is one wonderful pastime from our scriptures, from Ramayana itself. So we can, from Ramayana. The pastime of how the king Kaushik becomes the great sage Vishwamitra. That's a wonderful pastime, Mataji. A really heart-melting pastime. Now, just imagine, Vishwamitra, he was such a greedy king. But after transformation, so there was such a transformation, yeah, that at one point he became the spiritual master of Lord Sri Ram and Lakshman. And Lord Ram was touching his feet. To that extent, he purified himself. So there's a big pastime. Once upon a time, so King Kaushik was returning with his big army after a victorious battle. Yeah, and then he happened to arrive at the hermitage of sage Vashishta. Yeah, and then Vashishta Rishi, being very generous and kind, so he invited king and all his fellow soldiers for a lunch. Now just imagine how big the army would be. It was like really, it was not like our Harinam party, 5 people, It was 5 lakhs or 50 lakh soldiers. 50 million, 50 million. Ich weiß nicht, wie viel, aber muss groß sein, Mataji. Must be really great, big army, because he was victorious. And then Vashishta Rishi had a very small ashram. Do you know whose son is Vashishta Rishi? Brahma, right? And then Vashishta Rishi, he arranged lunch, very, very luxurious, very delicious and sumptuous lunch for everyone. And then king, he laughed initially. He thought it's not possible. But then when Vashishta Rishi arranged, and he was surprised. And then he said, how it is possible? How did you do it? And it was so tasty. Only if I get your cook, whatever I have earned from this victory battle, I will give half of that to your ashram. And Vashishta Rishi, he was smiling. Vashishta was smiling and he said, well, how can a poor Brahmana, simple Brahmana like me, possess such a power? Yeah. And then he said, it became possible only because of Surabhi. Mother Surabhi, he said. And then he says, who is Mother Surabhi? He says, I'll show you Mother Surabhi. And then a beautiful cow comes and says, this is Mother Surabhi. So I'll cut short. It's a big, beautiful pastime, Mataji, if you get to read or hear someone's lecture. But then this king was so greedy. And then, he started devising a plan. I want this Surabhi. King said, dear king, I'm really sorry, I cannot give it. And then Kaushik king said, I am the king of this kingdom. And hence, I am the owner by default of everything that comes in this kingdom. And then Vashishta said, dear king, that's true. But mother cow, she is not just a cow, she is my mother. And on top of that, she has been given to us to be taken care of by Lord Brahma himself. Yeah. So Kaushik wanted that cow at any cost because Kaushik wanted to enjoy himself. Surabhi is a cow which gives all the benedictions. Yeah. And Kaushik, he was a greedy king. He wanted to enjoy this power of Mother Surabhi for himself. And Vashishta Rishi, he had no problem in giving the cow to Kaushik. But he knew that he will misuse Surabhi's power. So he knew that the cow is to be going in the wrong hands. So he denied, he stood firm. He said no. Yeah. And the king gave argument, I am the king of this kingdom. Yeah. And the Vashishta Rishi said, well, you are supposed to be, as a king, you are supposed to be the servant and also the father of everyone who is in the kingdom. Yeah. But I see that your intentions are not serving the people. Instead, your intentions are to exploit the people. So Vashishta Rishi could not give the cow and Kaushik wanted the cow. And then there was a battle. So all the army of Kaushik Rishi attacked Vashishta Rishi. But Vashishta was a Brahma Rishi, the topmost amongst the sages. the topmost. There is no level beyond that in the sages. By his mystic power, he created an army who fought with the army of Kaushik.
And wasn't Surapi who
Produced the army. Yeah. Suravi. Yeah. So like this, and then, Kaushik was defeated with his army, and then he goes in the Himalayas to do some austerity to please Lord Shiva. So like this, Lord Shiva, he comes, gives his darshan, and he asks Kaushik. Kaushik says, my dear Lord, if you are pleased with me, give me power. And Lord Shiva asks, according to you, what is the definition of power? And then Kaushik says that all the divine weapons being used by Swargavasis, Yakshas, Kinnaras, Gandharvas, and all the celestial beings, I want all those divine weapons. Who could be more powerful than the one who holds these weapons? And then Lord Shiva says, I'm surprised. I thought you will ask victory over your lust, anger and greed. Kaushik says, but dear Lord Shiva, if you are pleased with my austerity, just give me what I am asking. So that's how the pastime goes on. And like this, let me complete it. And then with his celestial weapons, he comes to challenge Vashishta Rishi again. But the intensity of the effulgence of Vashishta Rishi's austerity just destroyed all the celestial weapons. Kaushik was defeated once again. Vashishta, he insisted Kaushik Rishi to give up his false ego. But Kaushik could not give it so easily. And then he went to do austerity again. Yeah. And once he was doing austerity in the forest for a long time. So a king who became a Shudra, Trishankhu, he approached Kaushik and he said, dear King Kaushik, I have heard you have earned great powers. I want to ask something which even your rival Vashishta could not give me. You see how he used his words to get his work done. And then the king was excited. Oh, Vashishta could not give. I will definitely give you. And then he says, ask what you want. And he was a Shudra actually. Or he became a Shudra. He was a king. But he said, I want to go to heavenly planets with the present materialistic body. Yeah. It is not possible to go to heaven with this stinking body. Yeah. If we go, the very first thing that they would understand or notice is that something is stinking very badly. Because they don't sweat. Yeah. So it's like this. There are a lot of descriptions about heavenly descriptions. And he used his austerity power, yeah, to send Trishanku to Swargaloka. But as soon as he reached Swargaloka, Indra denied. He threw him back on the ground in this world again. Yeah. And Trishanku started lamenting. Oh, why? Only with me. So like this, And then says, don't worry. Trishanku, if the residents of Swargaloka denied you, yeah, I with my power of austerity will create another Swargaloka only for you. And like this, he uses all his power, whatever merit he earned by doing that austerities, he used everything. He creates another Swargaloka for Trishanku. But it is said, Trishanku, even though in that Swargaloka, he could not enjoy anything because he was not destined to. So he always kept hanging upside down, leg up, head down, and could not enjoy that Swargaloka. So, but in the meantime, we see Kaushik, he lost all his power. Yeah. And he understood that false ego did a great loss to him. Yeah. And like this, it's a big story actually. I mean, there are a lot of things that happen in between. So we'll talk some other day. But we see slowly, many things happened when he wanted to defeat Vashishta Rishi. Vashishta Rishi was very simple-hearted sage. He had no envy, or he had nothing to do with the king's false ego. He was just serving his father's Brahmaji's instructions. Yeah. And cow is not just an animal. Cow is our mother. So we cannot give cow, our mother, in front of to anyone. So he was just protecting his mother. But Kaushik, he wanted that cow at any cost. But then series of incidents happened, and finally he transformed. But in between there's one another famous incident. If we remember, it is said for about after this incident happened of Trishanku, for about 60,000 years he meditated, and his fire emanating from his body started disturbing Swargaloka residents. And they were, yeah. Indra is always worried if someone is doing heavy austerity, because Indra is so much attached to his throne. So he thinks that everyone is interested in his throne, but no one is interested in his throne actually. You see, but Indra misunderstood Kaushik, and he sent his famous weapon. What was her name? Yeah, what was her name? Menka. Menka he sent. 60,000 years he meditated. Just one tinkling of the ankle bells of Menka, and he was out. And he spent some years, In the meantime, he lost all his power of austerity, whatever he earned by doing those meditation. And then Menka left. She did her task and she left. That's why it's said to marry only a devotee girl or a devotee boy. Okay. Then he started lamenting again. Heavy lamentation. But he resolved. He was determined. Yeah. Even after falling down like this to zero. Yeah. So that's why other processes yoga processes are not recommended in Kali Yuga. Because once we fall down, it all goes to zero. Yeah. Only Bhakti Yoga is recommended, because Bhakti Yoga, the place we left, next time we continue from that point onwards. If we completed 80% in this life, so like 99% in case of Ekaini Mataji, then from so she's not taking birth, but people like me, we continue from 91 onwards. So like this, he continued again, and he started performing austerity again. And again, after some years, his body became blazing. So Indra was worried again. He said, "Don't worry, heavenly people. I got one more weapon, Rambha." He sent Rambha. But Kaushik was very careful this time. He learned from his mistake. He said, when Rambha came, he said, Kamukta ki bali. So he said that, I could not translate this in English actually. I mean, he said a wonderful line. He said that you are, he said like, you are very deadly, lusty weapon of Indra. Yeah, but even I am a mountain of steadiness. Yeah, I will not fall for this same trap again. And then he cursed Rambha, because your heart is a stone-like heart. Yeah? You don't have any compassion for others. I curse you to become a stone. Yeah, and Rambha becomes a stone. So, and then Kaushik, he starts lamenting again. What did he do? First, false ego. Trishankhu, then lust, Menaka, then anger, Rambha. And he, like this, he was learning lessons in his life with hardcore realizations. And then he started meditating again. With all the lessons he learned, he was very careful not to fall for the same traps again. Yeah. And then he started austerity and his fire was blazing again from the body. And Indra personally came to test him. After years and years of austerity and fasting, when he was about to break his fast, yeah, Indra came in the form of a Brahmana. And he knew he will definitely get angry. He will curse him and he will lose all his powers again. Yeah. But this time, whatever he was about to eat, he gave it in alms to Indra. The moment he gave that alms, Lord Brahma appeared. "O King Kaushik, you have been victorious over all the anarthas. Yeah? Your heart is burning with compassion for all the living entities." Shri Shri Vijay Gauranga Dalnita Bhagavan ki. So Brahma said, your heart is burning with compassion for all the living entities. Yeah? You are friend of all the living entities. You're friend of complete creation. And hence, I give you the name Vishwamitra. And then Kaushik says, dear Lord Brahma, no doubt that your words is coming true and always comes true. But I will be only happy and grateful and will dare to accept this position of Brahma Rishi, Vishwamitra, if my friend Vashishta personally comes and graces me. Yeah? And then Vashishta Rishi comes and he glorifies Vishwamitra. And he says, I am so fortunate that I have been a sole witness. I have been a witness to see your journey from Singhasan or the king's, how we say that? Throne, the king's throne, Simhasam to Vyasasana. So that's how they became close friends. But years after, Vishwamitra laments the way he treated Vashishta Rishi, you know. So, but he becomes glorious. Vishwamitra becomes glorious. He becomes glorious to that extent that when he goes to Ayodhya to ask Ram and Lakshman from Dashrath, yeah, Dashrath counsels from his Rajguru, Vashishta. Vashishta says, I have seen the power of Vishwamitra. He will teach your sons in the divine art, you know, and he will protect your sons. Send Ram and Lakshman with Vishwamitra. So like this. They had their differences. Yeah. But for the service of Lord Ram, Krishna, yeah, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Nityananda Prabhu, they gave up their differences. They gave up their differences. Yeah. So if Mother Surabhi has to be given to Kaushik or to Vishwamitra, whom would you give? Whom would you give? No, there is a question. That's a question.
Первая обязанность царя – защищать и поддерживать Браману. Он не имел никакого права Браману собирать корову.
The first duty of the king is to protect and to support brahmanas. So he had no right to ask
The cow.
The cow from this rishi.
Yeah, but he asked it.
So,
So he had to undergo the purification process.
yeah, it's kind of new also.
Yeah. So if, let's say, even if Vasishtha Rishi decides, to hand over the responsibility, of taking care of Mother Surabhi, or Mother Cow, then he would like to give to Vishwamitra very happily. Then he would give to Kaushik. The same person, but before transformation. Yeah. Indra is always scared when someone does good austerity. Yeah. He is just scared that someone will steal his throne of Swargaloka. But no one is interested in his throne. Neither King Bali and neither King... who came? I'm forgetting his name. Who did 99 Ashwamedha Yagya? Prithu Maharaj. No one was interested in King Indra's throne. Yeah. But Indra, he's so attached to materialistic sense gratification, that if someone even starts austerity, he sends Kamdev. That's it. You don't have to do anything else. Srila Prabhupada ki. Let us read one shloka quickly from Sri Chaitanya Caritamrita. Can you open this Prabhuji like this? Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Shri Shri Vijay Gauranga Dwell Nitai Bhagavan Ki. Does everyone has shlokas in front of you? Mataji has? Okay. Murari kahe tume Krishna vasha kaila Shunyamu is the same shloka? Yes. Yeah. Shunya Murari shloka kahite lagila. So let us chant our prayers to our acharyas. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshulunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamaheyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadavaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakha Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschata Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Translation is as follows by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki. Lord Chaitanya then praised Murari Gupta, saying, "You have satisfied Lord Krishna." Hearing this, Murari Gupta quoted a verse from Srimad Bhagavatam. Kvaham daridra papiyan Kva Krishna Shri Niketanaha Brahma Bandhur iti smaham Bahubhyam parirambhitaha. He says, who says? Murari Gupta says, this shloka from Srimad Bhagavatam, Brahma Bandhu, since I am but a poor, sinful Brahma Bandhu, not Brahmanically qualified, although born in a Brahmanical family, and you, Lord Krishna, are the shelter of Goddess of Fortune. It is simply wonderful, my dear Lord Krishna, that you have embraced me with your arms. So about whom he is talking? Who could be saying this shloka to Krishna? Don't see the purport. Who could be saying this shloka? I am a Brahma Bandhu. Exactly. Sudama Vipra. So, a purport says, there is a verse from Srimad Bhagavatam, 10 Canto 81th, 16th, spoken by Sudama Vipra in the presence of Lord Shri Krishna. This and the previous verse quoted from Srimad Bhagavatam clearly indicate that although Krishna is so great that it is not possible for anyone to satisfy him, he exhibits his greatness by being personally satisfied even with one who is disqualified from so many angles of vision. Sudama Vipra was born in a family of Brahmanas, and he was a learned scholar and a class friend of Krishna's. Yet he considered himself unfit to be strictly called a Brahmana. He called himself a Brahma Bandhu, meaning one born in a Brahman family but not Brahmanically qualified. Yeah, that's how devotees of Krishna are. Because of his great respect for Brahmanas, however, Krishna embraced Sudama Vipra, although he was not a regular Brahmana but a Brahma Bandhu or friend of a Brahmana family. Murari Gupta could not be called even a Brahma Bandhu because he was born of a Vaidya family. And according to social structure, does someone know what is the meaning of Vaidya?
It's a doctor, a Vedic doctor.
True. That's a doctor. That's a doctor. Vaidya. Yeah. And according to social structure, was therefore considered a Shudra. But Krishna bestowed special mercy upon Murari Gupta because he was a beloved devotee of the Lord. As stated by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the purport of Sri Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur's elaborate discussion of this subject is that no qualification in this material world can satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. Yet, everything becomes successful simply through development of devotional service to the Lord. The members of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness cannot even call themselves Brahma Bandhu. Therefore, our only means for satisfying Krishna is to pursue the injunctions of Lord Chaitanya, Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who says, Yare dekha tarekaha Krishna upadesh. Everyone? Amara agyaya guru hanatara eidesh. Which means, whomever you meet, instruct him on the teachings of Krishna. In this way, on my order, become a spiritual master and deliver the people of this country. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said in Madhya Leela 7.128, yeah? Simply trying to follow the orders of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we speak to the people of the world about Bhagavad Gita as it is. This will make us qualified to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. So, after this follows a beautiful pastime that happened in Sri Mayapur Dham. Do we have time or should we stop here? Okay. There's a wonderful pastime which is very famous pastime and so favorite. I wish I was also there in that pastime. And if somehow my Krishna consciousness is successful and my Guru Maharaj asks me for a benediction, I will ask, I want to take part in this pastime. Okay, let's see what is this pastime. Ekadina Prabhu Sabha Bhakta Gana Laya. Next verse, yeah. Everyone together. Ekadina Prabhu Sabha Bhakta Gana Lana. Everyone. Who is missing? Someone is missing. No need, Prabhu. It's in your heart, Prabhuji. Come, Prabhu. Just try it out. You can take it, Prabhuji. It's nice verse, you know. Let us chant these verses. These are in Bengali. Who wrote these verses? Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. This is his Mahaprasad. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, his pastimes narrated by a pure devotee of Krishna. So this is Mahaprasad of Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. Let us recite wholeheartedly. Yeah. Adi Leela 1779, Prabhuji. Yeah. Everyone, you ready? Okay. Ekadina Prabhu Sabha Bhakta Gana Laya. Sankirtana Kari Vaishe Shrama Yukta Haya. One day, the Lord performed Sankirtan with all his devotees. And when they were greatly fatigued, they sat down. Eka Amra Bija Prabhu Angane Ropila. Tat Shane Janmila Vriksha Badite Lagila. The Lord then sowed a mango seed in the yard. And immediately the seed fructified into a tree and began to grow. Yeah. Dekhite dekhite vriksha haila falita. Pakila aneka phala sabai vismita. Vismita means to struck with wonder. As people looked on, the tree became fully grown with fruits that fully ripened. Thus, everyone was struck with wonder. Shatadui Phala Prabhu Shigra Padaila. Prakshalana Kari Krishne Bhoga Lagaila. The Sorry. The Lord immediately picked up. I'm so sorry. The Lord immediately picked up about 200 fruits. 200 mangoes, Susaman of Kehovan. Ajanulambita bhujau kanaka vadato sankirtanaika pitaro kamalaya taksho vishwambharo dvijavaro yugadharma palo vande jagat priyakaro karunavataro. Ajanulambita bhujau. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has long, beautiful, thick hands which extends beyond his knees. If someone is framing himself as God, check this symptom. Does his hands extends beyond his knees or not? Yeah. There are many symptoms, but this is also one of the symptoms. Yeah. Even Lord Ram had long hands. Shyam Sundar Krishna also. So with his beautiful long hands, he picked up about 200 fully ripened mangoes. Now what kind of mangoes we are talking here? Rakta pita varna nahi ashti valkala. Rakta pita varna nahi ashti valkala. एक जनेर पेट भरे खाई ले एक फल. एक जनेर पेट भरे खाई ले एक फल. एक जनेर. The fruits were all red and yellow with no seed inside and no skin outside, and eating one fruit would immediately fill a man's belly. The man that were there in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Sankirtan party, it is said once Kadam Kanan Maharaj was saying, Mahaprabhu used to be in so much ecstasy, for 8 hours. They would be stuck only on the first line of Mahamantra. Vakreshwar Pandit used to dance continuously for 8 hours. Mukunda used to sing for 8 hours. So just imagine how hungry they must be. But one fruit filled that devotee's belly completely. Purport: in India, a mango is considered best when it is red and yellow. Its seed is very small, its skin is very thin, and it is so palatable that if a person eats one fruit, he will be satisfied. The mango is considered the king of all fruits. We see here, so the place looks like just like Amra Ghat, the place where this pastime happened, So the background today, it just looks like the same place. If you Google Amra Ghat, then there are images. Still there is a tree. That place is still there with a mango tree. Let's complete the pastime actually. Dekhiya santushta haila sachira nandana. Sabha ke khao yala age kariya bhakshana. Seeing the quality of the mangoes, the Lord was greatly satisfied, and thus, after eating first, he fed all the other devotees. Ashtivalkala nahi amrit rasamaya. Eka fale khaile rase udara puraya. The fruits had no seeds or skins. They were full of nectarian juice and were so sweet that a man would be fully satisfied by eating only one. Ei mata pratidina fale bar masa. Vaishnava khaye na phala Prabhura Ullasa. In this way, fruits grow on the tree every day throughout the 12 months of the year, and the Vaishnavas used to eat them to the Lord's great satisfaction. ए सब लीला करे सचिर नंदना, अन्य लोक नाही जाने विना भक्त गणा. These are confidential pastimes of the son of Sachi. Other than devotees, no one knows of this incident. But please tell everyone. Purport: non-devotees cannot believe this incident. Non-devotees cannot believe this incident. Non-devotees cannot believe this incident. Yet, the place where the tree grew still exists in Mayapur. It is called Amra Ghatta or Amra Ghat. Ei mata baramasa kirtan avasane. Here's the last shloka. Everyone together. Ei mata baramasa kirtan avasane. Amra mahotsava prabhu kare dine dine. Okay, one last time. Let us chant this shloka very loudly. Ei matta baramasa kirtan avasane. Amra mahotsava prabhu kare dine dine. In this way, the Lord performed Sankirtan every day, and at the end of Sankirtan, there was a mango eating festival every day for 12 months. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki purport. On principle, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would distribute prasad at the end of Kirtan performances. Similarly, the members of the Krishna consciousness movement must distribute some prasad to the audience after performing Kirtan. Mahaprasade Govinde. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki, Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki, Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki, Srila Prabhupada's disciples ki, Samaveda Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki, Nitai Gaur Premanande. So, that's why. I hope now all of you also want to be a part of this festival. No. Srila Prabhupada ki.